Most Americans will work 40 years and still not have enough to retire. Not because they didn't earn enough, because right now, in amounts too small to feel, their money is quietly bleeding out, and they have no idea. My neighbor Dave saw it coming at 31, fixed it, and retired at 53 with more money than most people who out-earned him by decades. It all came down to one number, 6 ways it shows up in your life, and at least one of them is already costing you more than you realize. What I'm about to show you took me 11 years and a lot of wasted money to understand. 6 rules, 1 number. And the uncomfortable truth is, the longer you wait to watch this, the more it's already costing you. Dave drives a 2014 Toyota Camry with a bumper sticker from a national park he visited 6 years ago. His watch is a Casio he bought at Walmart for $14. He wears it to every occasion, cookouts, weddings, you name it. And when I first moved onto his street in Columbus, Ohio, I honestly assumed he was just getting by. Then one evening he invited me over for a beer, and I found out what he was actually worth. And I felt embarrassed, not for him, for me. I asked him how he did it. I expected the usual stuff. Hustle harder, wake up at 5 a.m., start a side business. He waved all of that off like he was shooing a fly. He said, "Jason, I had one number that I held up against every single financial decision I ever made. Didn't matter if I was buying a car, signing a lease, or wondering whether to upgrade my phone plan. I checked it against that number first, every time." I asked him what the number was. He said $10,000. I waited for more. He just took a sip of his beer, and here's the thing. By the end of that conversation, I understood exactly why that number appears at every single turning point in a person's financial life. 6 different rules, 6 different contexts, one number that tells you whether you're building something real or slowly drowning without realizing it. I'm going to walk you through all 6, and I'll warn you right now, one of these rules is going to make you uncomfortable. Not because it's complicated, because it's going to describe your life more accurately than you want it to. But stay with me, because the rule after that one is the way out. Rule number 1, the floor. Every financial advisor in America will tell you to build an emergency fund equal to 3 to 6 months of expenses. And that advice is not wrong. It's just completely useless as a starting point. You know why? Because the moment most people hear 3 to 6 months, their brain does the math and lands on a number like $25,000. And $25,000 might as well be a spaceship. It's so far away that the brain just gives up. Saves nothing, tells itself it'll start once things are more stable. Things are never more stable. Dave told me to forget the months, forget the percentages. Just get $10,000 in cash, not invested, not in a 401k actual cash, sitting in a high-yield savings account doing nothing glamorous. Here's what that number actually does for you. $10,000 covers roughly 2 to 2.5 months of expenses for the average American household, but more importantly, it's the number where the poverty premium disappears. The poverty premium is the invisible tax on being broke, and it is brutal. Your car starts making a noise somewhere on the I-90. You know you should get it checked, but you don't have the money, so you ignore it. A $300 repair turns into a $2,000 transmission job 4 months later because you couldn't afford to fix it when it was small. Your tooth hurts. You skip the dentist because the copay feels like too much right now. You end up in an emergency room in Chicago with an abscess and a $4,000 bill because you couldn't afford the $200 cleaning that would have caught it. You buy the cheapest tires at Discount Tire because that's all you can do. They wear out in 18 months. The person who bought the better tires once spends less on tires over 10 years than you do buying cheap ones 3 times. This is what being below $10,000 in liquid cash actually costs you. You're not just poor, you're being charged extra for being poor in 100 invisible ways, constantly. Every dollar below $10,000 is costing you money you can't see. Every dollar above it is the beginning of actual wealth. Dave called it the floor. He said you don't build a house starting with the roof. 10,000 is the foundation. Everything else is the house. Rule number 2, the car rule. And this one is the rule that saved me the most money personally, because I was violating it the worst. Do not spend more than $10,000 on a car until your invested assets, not your salary, not your home equity, your actual invested assets in a brokerage or retirement account, exceed $100,000. When Dave explained this to me, I was driving a $34,000 Chevy Tahoe I'd financed over 66 months. My invested assets at the time were about $14,000. I had a car worth more than twice my entire investment portfolio. I was literally driving my wealth around. Dave didn't make me feel stupid. He just asked one question. Jason, if your car and your investments switched places right now, if you had $34,000 invested and drove a $14,000 car, which version of you would be richer in 15 years? I didn't need a spreadsheet. Here's the math he walked me through. The gap between a $10,000 car and a $30,000 car is $20,000. Take that $20,000, put it in a broad market index fund, leave it alone. At the historical average return of roughly 10% annually, that single decision is worth $135,000 in 20 years. Not 20,000, 135,000. The car is worth zero in 20 years, regardless of what you paid for it. Both the $10,000 Honda Accord and the $35,000 SUV end up in the same junkyard. The only difference is what happened to the gap between them. I sold the Tahoe 2 months after that conversation, bought a 2017 Honda Civic with 61,000 miles on it for $9,000. My wife thought I'd lost my mind. I showed her what the difference would look like in our Fidelity account when our kids hit college age. She came around fast. Now here's what people always say at this point. Cheap cars mean unreliable cars. Breakdowns. Getting stranded on I-75 at midnight. The data doesn't back that up. Consumer Reports has been tracking reliability for decades. A 5 to 8-year-old Honda, Toyota, or Mazda with under 100,000 miles is statistically more reliable than a brand new car from most American manufacturers. You're not buying a worse machine. You're buying a machine that someone else already took the depreciation hit on. Because new cars lose roughly 20% of their value the moment you drive off the lot. And I want to plant something in your brain right now, because I'm going to come back to it in Rule 5. The car rule and the investment rule are not two separate ideas. They are the same idea. Keep that in mind. Rule number 3, the investment floor. Invest a minimum of $10,000 per year. That's $833 a month. And before you tell me that's not possible, let me show you what's actually at stake. Because this is where most Americans quietly guarantee themselves a broken retirement without ever meaning to. $10,000 a year invested consistently for 25 years, at the historical average stock market return of about 10%, becomes $735,000. You personally put in $250,000 of your own money. The market adds $485,000 on top of it. You end up with nearly $750,000, and most of that money came from money you never earned. It came from time. But here's the number that actually matters. $735,000, using the 4% withdrawal rule, generates about $29,000 a year in retirement income. Add Social Security, and for most Americans, that's a retirement that actually functions. Drop below $10,000 a year and the math starts breaking. At $6,000 a year for 25 years, you end up with about $440,000. That generates roughly $17,000 in annual retirement income. That is below the federal poverty line for a single person in 2025. The gap between investing $6,000 and $10,000 per year, just $333 a month, is the difference between a retirement that works and one that doesn't. That's not a rounding error. That's the difference between freedom and calling your kids asking for money when you're 72. My other neighbor, Marcus, who moved here from Atlanta, frames it even sharper. He says $10,000 a year is the price of a future. Below that, you're buying lottery tickets with your retirement savings. Now, let me challenge something directly. The average American car payment in 2025 is $734 a month for a new vehicle. The average American spends over $300 monthly on subscriptions and streaming services they've forgotten they signed up for. The money exists. It's just currently working hard to make someone else rich instead of you. Rule number 4, the spending ceiling. This is the one I promised would describe your life. If your monthly spending exceeds $10,000, you need $3 million invested before you can retire. Let me say that again, clearly. $10,000 a month in spending requires $3 million in assets to sustain, using the 4% rule. At $10,000 a month, your annual expenses are $120,000. Multiply that by 25. $3 million. Most people never run this math. They think about retirement as replacing their income. But your income isn't what you need in retirement. Your spending is. I had a colleague in Cincinnati named Brian. Great guy. Made $160,000 a year. He had a nice house in Blue Ash, 2 car payments. His kids were in travel soccer. The family went to Hilton Head every July. None of it was excessive. None of it was flashy. It just added up to about $9,500 a month. At $9,500 a month, Brian needed $2.8 million to retire. Brian was 44 years old with about $320,000 in his 401k. To reach $2.8 million by 65, he needed to invest roughly $32,000 a year for 21 years. That's about $2,600 a month on top of his $9,500 in spending on a post-tax income of around $10,300. The math didn't work. It literally did not work. His lifestyle had quietly priced him out of his own retirement, and he had no idea because nobody had ever shown him the number on the other end of his monthly spending. Here's what you need to memorize. Every $1,000 per month in spending requires an additional $300,000 in retirement savings. That's not a rounding error. That's an entire decade of investing for most people, hiding inside a monthly lifestyle decision. The SUV upgrade is $250 extra a month. That's $75,000 more you need saved before you can stop working. The slightly nicer apartment is $400 more a month. That's $120,000. The meal kit delivery, the premium streaming package, the upgraded gym membership, the nicer phone plan, each one is reasonable on its own. Combined, they're quietly building a retirement number you will never reach. In slow motion. In increments small enough that you never feel any single cut. That's why $10,000 a month in spending is the ceiling. Not because spending more makes you a bad person. Because spending more without the savings to back it means you've silently signed up for a job sentence that lasts until your body gives out. And most people don't discover that until they're 61, and it's too late to fix it. Rule number 5, the stress test. Here's the rule nobody teaches, and it's the one that has personally saved me from 3 financial decisions that would have quietly wrecked my progress. Before you make any lifestyle upgrade that permanently increases your monthly spending, before you sign the lease on the nicer apartment, before you add the car payment, before you say yes to anything that costs you more every single month going forward. Save $10,000 first at the new spending level. Dave called this the stress test. Here's how it works. Let's say you're thinking about moving from your current apartment in Denver to a nicer one that costs $600 more per month. Before you sign anything, keep living where you are and start transferring that extra $600 every month into a separate savings account. If you can do that for about 17 months and reach $10,000, while still hitting your investment floor, paying your bills, and not feeling financially suffocated, you've just proven 2 things. 1, you can actually afford this upgrade without it eating your future. 2, You now have a $10,000 buffer specifically for the new expense. So if something goes wrong in the first year, you're not scrambling. But if that $600 a month is hard to save, if your investment contributions shrink, or you're suddenly feeling tight every month, you just got the most valuable piece of information possible and it cost you nothing. The upgrade was going to break your financial system. You found out before it did. This rule killed 3 bad decisions for me personally. I was going to add a premium cable package in 2022, $90 more a month. I tried saving $90 separately and noticed it was tighter than I expected. Kept the cheaper plan. My wife and I were seriously looking at a bigger house in the suburbs. Mortgage would have been $800 more per month. We ran the stress test for 3 months. Both of us felt it. We stayed put. Each of those decisions seemed completely affordable in the moment. The stress test revealed the truth before it cost us anything. Affordable means you can make the payment. Smart means you can make the payment and still build wealth at the exact same pace. 10,000 is the number that separates those 2 words. Rule number 6, the inheritance rule. This is the one Dave saved for last, and it's the rule that nobody in personal finance talks about because it feels uncomfortable. But it's the one that separates people who build real lasting wealth from people who build wealth and then silently bleed it away. Do not give money to people who haven't earned it until you have 10 times the amount saved that you're giving away. Let me be specific, because I know how that sounds. This doesn't mean be selfish. It doesn't mean refuse to help your kids or your family. It means this. If you want to give your son $10,000 for a down payment, make sure you have $100,000 sitting untouched behind it first. If you want to pay for your daughter's wedding, say $20,000, make sure you have $200,000 in assets that aren't going anywhere. Because here's what actually happens in America. Parents drain their retirement accounts to help their kids with down payments, weddings, car purchases, and bailouts, and their kids, who received the money with genuine gratitude, go on to live their lives while their parents quietly arrive at 68 with not enough to stop working. The most loving thing you can do for your kids financially is not give them money. It's make sure you will never need theirs. Dave told me about his brother-in-law Terry in Phoenix. Made good money his whole career, spent reasonably, saved okay. Terry gave his 3 kids a combined total of about $90,000 over a decade. Down payments, emergencies, a business loan for his youngest that never got paid back. Terry is 69. He works part-time at a hardware store, not because he loves it, because he has to. His kids feel terrible about it, and there is nothing they can do that will give him back the 10 years of compound growth that money would have generated if he'd left it alone. The best inheritance you can leave your family is a version of yourself that never becomes their financial burden. 10 times the gift amount. That's the floor before generosity. $10,000 as a cash buffer breaks the poverty premium and stops the invisible tax on being broke. $10,000 as a car ceiling protects the years when your money is doing its most powerful compounding. $10,000 per year invested is the absolute floor for a retirement that doesn't leave you calling your kids. $10,000 per month in spending is the ceiling. Above it, retirement requires a number most Americans will never reach. $10,000 saved at a new spending level is the stress test that separates a smart upgrade from a slow-motion financial trap. And 10 times any gift you want to give is the rule that makes sure your generosity doesn't quietly bankrupt your future. Dave is 61 now, still drives that Camry, still wears the Walmart watch. He spent last fall at a cabin in the Smoky Mountains with his grandkids for 3 weeks, not a weekend, 3 weeks, because nothing in his financial life required him to be anywhere on a Monday morning. He told me once that wealthy people don't have complicated systems. They have simple systems they never break. 10,000 is the simplest one I've ever found. Tell me in the comments, which of these 6 rules hit you the hardest? I read every single one, And if you want to see exactly how I structure my own accounts to make all 6 of these rules automatic, that video is right here. See you in the next one.